Gareth A. Davies, on your travels again, I see, sir, unless you've changed your front room setup.
No, I'm on the move again. I'm on a secret mission to interview one of our big heavyweights. No revelations yet. And but yes, I'm on travels. But I will be back for the Dublin event between Kakachi and Dickens, which I can't wait to be at. How about
Yeah,
you?
I am just in my normal abode here, in the little studio just off my front room. You mentioned the Dickens Kakachi. I mean, fingers crossed about Jazz. Obviously, he's based now in Dubai. Obviously, we know what's going on in the world at the moment, and there is I guess, a nervousness that he might not be able to travel out of Dubai in order to get back to Dublin. So, fingers crossed that fight does go through. It'll be such a shame because it's a be a first world title defense for Jazza Dickens as well, and it's a great matchup against Kakache. So let's hope he can get out of Dubai and get to Dublin and finish off his fight camp.
Absolutely. Well, I came to the Far East yesterday and I came through Saudi Arabia, and some flights are still, flight paths are still open. Let's hope so, like you say, and let's hope everyone gets their sort of situation sorted out at the moment in what is a terrible time in that area of the world.
Indeed, indeed. I was in Derby over the weekend. I was in the Valent Arena, first time ever going to there. A nice small arena, compact. I think it kind of holds about 3 or 4 thousand. But every seat is a good seat. Every seat has a vantage point overlooking the ring. And it was my first time seeing this young Konstantin Urso from Moldova. Apologies, now based in Plymouth. Has got big backing from Plymouth Argyle, the football club as well, which is interesting. He's now the British champion. He was the Commonwealth champion, WBO European champion. Has done a lot on these small shows put on by Johnny Clark and Top Tier. It's almost good to see that conveyor belt of fighters still coming through the small hall shows, because that's kind of what we need. It can't always just be about top heavy. It needs to kind of be the next guys coming through. And this was good to see.
Absolutely. And also to add to that, it's great to see, like you say, mentioning Plymouth Argyle there, fighters, boxers aligning themselves with football clubs. Obviously, Josh
Yeah.
Warrington famously with Leeds, in Nottingham, Lee Woods and Ricky Hatton, of course, the late great Ricky Hatton with Manchester City. Tyson Fury mentioning that he's always been a Man United fan and would love to have a fight there. It's a great alignment for these guys, and like you say, from the bottom to the top as well as top down, it's very, very important that the sport continues to grow, to be augmented in that way, because as we'll kind of see today, there's a lot of top end stuff we're discussing at the moment because it's taking all the attention in the sport.
All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. You mentioned the top end stuff, and this man's name's been in the headlines. It feels like for about 3 years now. And that's Conor Benn. We finally found out Conor Benn's opponent. We found out that he will be on the Tyson Fury undercard. He will be chief support, and he's going to take on Regis Prograis, a former 140-pound champion. Has seen his best days. If we're brutally honest, Regis is now 37. He's clearly not the Regis Prograis that fought Josh Taylor back in 2019. And I guess one of the biggest revelations was this fight will be at 150 pounds. Bear in mind, Regis has never been a big 140. You spoke to Regis on the weekend. I mean, 150.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I mean, look, like you say, in his mid to late 30s, coming up a weight and a half is good for him physically. He's a very, very fine champion. He was a very fine champion. Yes, maybe his best days, the best days of Rougeau are behind him, but he's a very clever fighter. We know what Conor Benn's going to do. He's going to come out and he's going to throw big jabs and big hooks, and he's going to put pressure on Regis. It's a good opponent for Conor, but perhaps an underwhelming opponent if you look at the weight differential, as you say. But he is a name. He's a name in the UK. That was a big, big night against Josh Taylor, but a long time ago, as you mentioned. But perhaps we were hoping it'd be Rolly Romero or Ryan Garcia or Shakur Stevenson or one of these guys. But look, he's a name, and as he said on Saturday night, it was a fight he really couldn't say no to, even though he had some requests, but they weren't acquiesced to.
All right, let's hear from Regis Prograis. As Gareth alluded to there, he did speak to the former champion on Saturday, and he believes that he is a better fighter than Ben, who's only where he is now due to his family name.
If Conor Benn didn't have the last name Ben, like I don't know, where he would be. He wouldn't be as popular as he is now. He made a lot of money. He's popular now because, he fought Chris Eubank twice because of, it goes back and it's a great storyline. But no, I mean, look, man, he had a dad that came up. Congrats to him. He had a dad that came up that box. And for me, I didn't have none of that stuff. I got this stuff out the mud. I became a champion with no boxing family at all. I never had nobody in this. I'm the first person in my family bloodline, the first program that ever did this, and I am where I am. So, point blank, I feel like I'm better.
Do you rate him? Do you rate him?
Do I rate him? What?
Yeah.
It's what?
As a fighter, is a danger. Do you rate him? Do you rate the position he's in? Do you rate him as, do you rate him to say he's valued at $15 million, man?
I mean, I don't think he's rated as $15 million, but I'm not mad at him either. At the same time, look, if you get that money, man, you go get your money. That's why I say I'm all about the fighters making their money. I mean, Johnny, you was a fighter one time. You getting that money, you love it, right? So I'm not mad about that. But like for me, I think that Conor's a okay fighter, but same thing. I feel like I'm better. Weight wise, no matter what it is, I feel like I'm better.
I just want to clarify that it's Seller who has paid Conor Benn's money, by the way, and that's been clarified by Zuffa because they've had disputes from UFC fighters on the amount of money that they've been earning, and TKO have said no, it's Seller that are paying Conor Benn this money. It's not coming out of the UFC holdings. What's your take? It's been an extraordinary week with lawsuits and all sorts of things flying around, and Zuffa Boxing clearly being involved in bringing an event to the UK. There's talk about them being involved with Sky Sports over here. How do you see what's happening in the boxing world at the moment, Regis? Because obviously it's changed in our lifetimes in the last 3 years, really. Boxing's changed extraordinarily at the moment. How do you see it playing out?
I mean, I think it's shaking up. It's a good. For me, sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. But right now, I think it's a good thing that it's just shaking up. You got the Zuffa Boxing. I went to one of the shows. I kind of like it. I like the whole setup about it. It's shaking things up right now. That's all I can say. And they paying people good. Why not? Like I said earlier, I'm all about the fighters making as much money as they can, because once you're done, you're done. You can't make no more money no more. So it's it seemed like a cool thing to me.
So tell me, what do you expect? How do you think this fight will go when you get him with Conor? Is it going to be a long night? Is it going to be a short night? Or are you just going to do your thing?
I'm going to do my thing, man. I'll never predict long night, short night. It's going to be a short night because it's 10 rounds. That's not a long time at all. But I could do 10 rounds. Well, a few weeks ago, I probably couldn't do 10 rounds. But now I can do 10 rounds. I'm pretty sure I can do 10 rounds kind of easy. So I know it's 10 rounds is, for me, 10 rounds is a short night.
What version of you we're going to see? Remember, so you've won 3 of your last 5 fights. You're 37 years old. How fresh are you? How much of a sting you still got in your shop?
Oh man, I feel like one thing. I feel like this, man. I've been getting better. How? I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know what's going on with me, my body and stuff. Like, I'm 37, but I'm still doing all the same work. These guys in the gym. I've been in Vegas training for a while, and I've been staying out here, and I feel like I'm getting better. Like all the people that I've been working with, the training stuff, they just teaching me more and more stuff, and I actually became a champion twice without knowing none of these things, and it's surprising that I did that, but I feel like I'm better. I can still do all the workload. I just gotta take care of my body a little more. At first, I'm not gonna lie, man. When I was coming up, this might surprise people, but like I remember I had fights and I was on dirt bikes and 4-wheelers and stuff like that 2 days before my fight. So I just was doing stuff. Now, obviously, I don't do that no more, because if I fall off, I hurt myself, I won't be able to fight. But I just take care of my body a lot more. Like, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do no drugs. So I'm able to, I'm able to compete at a higher level for a longer time. And right now, like I said, you just saw me doing some electrolyte stuff. I'm just taking care of my body, just way more drinking water like I'm supposed to. But early in my career, man, I didn't do none of that stuff. So now I just feel like I'm just more serious about about my body. And yeah.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Regis Rujaru. It's great to see you. As always, we can't wait to see you step into the ring on April 11th at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Seems confident, does Regis. Looks good as well. Looks big. I guess he's deciding, okay, if they're going to make me fight at 150, might as well put on some size. And he is confident. And when he says better boxer, in terms of, I guess, CV and maybe even ability, so far from what we've seen from both, I mean, it's hard to argue with that, but obviously Conor is the younger, he is the fresher, he's the bigger guy, so it's going to be a bit of a problem. But he must have been jumping for joy when he got this phone call. Jumping for joy that, well, 1 second, I've got one more big one, because there was a lot of talk about him, doing the bare knuckle route as well. But one more big one, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I mean, he's never not going to take this regardless of the weight.
Yeah, and hopefully it gets the best out of him. I mean, Conor Benn has to win this. In every single way, because he's Jaya Pataya's obviously signed with Zuffa Boxing. This is a one fight deal at the moment, which we can get into in a moment. What they kind of have that flashes out, whether Conor Benn's actually getting 15 million for the one fight remains to be seen. I think there's talk in the background that it could be part of a bigger process for him. That's what people have been alluding to in the last few days. Look, for me, if you look at the balance of the undercard, then it's a good draw having Regis Prograis, but it's an awfully big purse to be given for this particular fight. Even though I think the signing of Conor Benn was maybe a statement from Zuffa Boxing about their power broking in the sport, which has been, that's been the story of the week, really, Ade. The last week since we spoke has been all the power broking going on in the sport, with Salah, with Zuffa Boxing, with Turki Al-Sheikh, with Frank Warren and Queensberry and Eddie Hearn. And, as you said at the top, we'll get into the potential lawsuit over contractual wranglings, which were with Salah, not with Turki Al-Sheikh. I hasten to add, we'll get into that. But it's a really big time in boxing, and the tectonic plates are really, really shifting, especially if you look at the fact that my understanding is that Zuffa are speaking to the Boxing Board of Control about their belt being recognised if it's fought over here in the UK, and we expect a deal with Zuffa Boxing, as well as MVP, of course, to be announced with Sky Sports very soon.
Yeah, there is a lot going on, more than I can sort of ever remember. There seems to be a massive power shift and power struggle between the top dogs. And look, for us in the boxing media, it's fantastic. There's so much to write about, so much to talk about. For boxing fans, it can be a bit confusing, but again, looks like they are going to get the big fights. On this Conor Benn and this, I think people are reading this wrongly, aren't they, when they say, okay, he's fighting for 15 million, and it could be that, but there's obviously a lot more around it. Conor, when he talks, you'd always hear the language of, I like the plans that Zuffa have laid out to me. Conor's not looking this and sounding like this is a one-fight deal. This is certainly something a bit more long-term, providing obviously he gets past Regis, which again, everyone expects him to do so. This isn't just Conor signing for one fight. This is almost Conor for what feels like quite a long time.
Yeah, and we don't know. And I think Shapiro of Zuffa Boxing and TKO Holdings has mentioned, because they got kickback from the UFC fighters. Obviously, TKO Group Holdings have WWE and UFC as well as SLAP. There was a lot of kickback from UFC fighters about a guy who's never won a world title being signed for 15 million. And understandably, a lot of their fighters coming forward to say, well, how on earth is this happening? The clarification being from TKO that this money's been put up to him from seller, not from them.
Yeah.
So that, and seller, of course, owns 60% of Zuffa Boxing. So it's a fascinating chessboard at the moment. I think I said to you, I think the manoeuvrings of Turki Al-Sheikh and Salah in the last 2.5 years, I think have put 24 of the 32 chess pieces on the board for themselves, if you like, at the moment. I can't remember. You mentioned a momentous and changing week. I think, and it was just before my time covering boxing, I think Mike Tyson moving to Don King from Bill Caton, is a long-standing manager, Bill Caton, in 1988, suddenly, and maybe Floyd Mayweather buying himself out of contract with Bob Arum in 2006. I think it was about 650, 700,000 pounds at the time to become what he's become and open his own Mayweather Promotions. I think those are the big shifts. I can't remember a week with so many layers and nuances and announcements. I mean, it was staggering all week. And obviously, we haven't mentioned it today, but the underlying story was, look what Eddie Hearn did for Conor Benn over all that period when he had problems with the clomiphene case. How he stood by him, look how he stood shoulder to shoulder with him and fought for him. And everyone's now saying all's fair in love, war and business.
Yeah, that's the language that people are using. As it stands right now, obviously Tyson Fury, one of the biggest names alongside Anthony Joshua over here, Conor Benn certainly right up there. They're both going to fight in the UK in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it's from as it stands right now, there'll be no Frank Warren in attendance and no Eddie Hearn in attendance in those big fights, potentially. Eddie, most certainly not. Frank, who knows? How crazy is that we are going to see Tyson Fury fight in the UK, Conor Benn fight in the UK, and neither will be promoted by Frank or Eddie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the same intelligence as you. You might say I don't have the same intelligence as you anyway, but what I mean is I don't have the same intel on whether Frank and Eddie will or won't be there. Obviously, Frank was at the press conference for Tyson Fury on the top table. He's still his promoter, but as you say, it's an event not run by them, definitely. They're not promoting the event in that sense, which again is fascinating. It's a Zuffa card. It's a Zuffa event with a lot of Ben Shalom boxers on there. I mean, I like the fact that I'm looking forward to Jamie TKV and Richard Riakporhe, Fraser Clark, Justice Hooney. I think that whole 10-fight undercard's been announced now. It's a really good card. I don't think they'll have issues getting the stadium, I say full, 60, 70,000. It wouldn't surprise me. Balmy night on April the 11th. Look, you can add into the mix that you just mentioned there that it's on Netflix as well, which is really emerging as a giant fight seller at the moment. Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao on there, Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano. I mean, it's just staggering what's going on. That's another layer to it all. But it's a clear sign of intent. When Zuffa launched its first 1, 2, 3 events within a month, and they were all kind of small hall shows, if you like, from the Apex in Las Vegas, we could not have imagined, or maybe we should have imagined, that there'd be some seismic announcements coming after it.
Yeah, and there are some big ones. You mentioned the undercard, just to quickly wrap up on this. Obviously, I think it's a good undercard. It's a quick turnaround. It feels like a quick turnaround anyway for Fraser Clark, considering how tough and brutal that fight with Jimmy TKV was. He takes on Justice Hooney, who's had a bit more of a break. Justice Hooney hasn't fought since the Fabio Wardley defeat. That's tough matchmaking. I mean, it's good matchmaking because Fraser, if he wins, he's straight back in there. But that's almost that's a tough one for Fraser. Or am I reading that wrong? It's a quick turnaround, and he's in there against someone that's a very good boxer as well. Yeah,
it's a really competitive fight. Look, they're both top-level elite amateurs. It's a fight I'm really looking forward to seeing. It's kind of maybe it's a must-win for Fraser.
Yeah.
Perhaps not so. I think the loss to Jamie TKV was a shock, but you can't take anything away from Jamie, who's developing rapidly and interestingly under Barry Smith and Ben Davison. Justice Hooney was 9 rounds ahead against the guy who now holds the WBO title, heavyweight title, in Fabio Wardley. Boxed very well, brought an injury into that fight. that some of us knew about before he went into it, but he boxed very well. So the recovery for Justice is not as heavy, if you like, as it is for Fraser Clarke, who obviously suffered that catastrophic loss prior to that against Wardley in Riyadh, when he was disfigured by that punch in the early part of the fight. But it's a really good. There's some really good matchups on the card. Really excited about it, and also I really like Jamie TKV and Richard Riakporhe.
Yeah, agreed. It's a great heavyweight title, British heavyweight title fight between those two as well. So I think it's a great card, and I think it's a 10-fight card as well, which is a big one. We haven't had cards like that for a long time. So it should be a good one and should easily sell out. I believe it will. Welcome back to Fight Night Extra on talkSPORT 2. Ade Oladipo, Gareth A. Davies. So look, it's been a crazy couple of weeks in boxing. Obviously kick-started by Conor Benn signing with Zuffa. And then we found out last week via the Telegraph that Frank Warren has taken legal action against Seller. It was massive news. And it's funny because I was actually at a press conference with Frank Warren promoting Fabio Wardley versus Daniel Dubois. And he was asked so many questions about this. And obviously it was no comment. Gareth, what can you tell us? Because at the moment, we're kind of getting nothing. And rightly so. I understand it, how it works. We're not getting nothing from the Queensberry side of things. Obviously, Seller haven't done anything apart from this Ring magazine post, which I thought was quite funny. What can you tell us and bring us up to date as to what is actually going on and how we've got here?
Well, the background to this is that Queensberry, and it's not necessarily Frank Warren because he's not named in it. Queensberry are claiming that they had a contract with Seller to be the promoters for the events. There's no contract with Turki Al-Sheikh, by the way, just to clarify, it's with Seller. And that they had opened their books to TKO Holdings as well at some point. And then obviously Seller and TKO Holdings have done a deal to create Zuffa Boxing with the claims that they're claiming for $1 billion, even though they haven't. I don't think the official lawsuit has begun yet. I think there were initial letters sent in the article written by my colleague, the associate editor, Gordon Rayner of the Telegraph. I did speak to him while the story was being done. I did a follow-up story that I've sent to you guys to read as well, outlining the kind of the pitched war, if you like, promotional war that's really been going on for a while since Zuffa announced they were going to come. So they were going to, or TKO announced that with Dana White they were going to create Zuffa Boxing and said they were going to take over. Obviously, they're moving into the UK with events here. We're seeing that on April the 11th, as we just discussed, and there will be more. They signed Jaya Pattaya as well. They're going to do many more big signings. I imagine when guys are out of contract, they will look at big names. And I think, what we saw was flexing on both sides. We saw Queensberry flexing their promotional muscles and saying, we don't want to be treated like this. But the other side of the coin, there's always three sides to the story. There's one person's side, the other person's side, and the truth. And from October 2023, or the summer leading up to that, when boxing came into Riyadh season, and we had the Battle of the Baddest with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, and then a series of amazing events in Riyadh and around the world. Turki Al-Sheikh leading the charge, if you like, through Seller and through his own aspirations, buying Ring magazine, promoting events through Ring magazine as well. Riyadh season, Ring magazine, Seller. They become a very powerful entity in the sport. Over that period, you cannot deny that Queensberry have benefited, the boxers have benefited. Then Matchroom came in and were involved in it as well. Ben Shalom's boxers and Boxer have become involved as well. It's Riyadh season sponsors most of the promoters. They got a sponsorship deal with Bob Arum. They had a sponsorship deal with Oscar De La Hoya as well. So I think there is a threat going on. There's an existential threat to other promoters, but this is boxing and it's the Wild West. So it's a fascinating case. Whether it goes to court, I don't know, but there's been a lot of flexing on every single side, notwithstanding that response that came out on the X platform of of the Ring magazine, which is a strange place for it to come out at the time, kind of battling back and hitting back, counterpunching, if you like, at that story in the Telegraph and those Queensberry claims.
So just from a very basic understanding of this, so obviously, as you mentioned, Queensberry were the promoter, the sole promoter when it was Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou, Battle of the Badness, as you say, way back October 2023. Is part of this legal case then that Queensberry just, again, to their understanding, had signed a deal so that they will be the sole or main promoter going forward, and now that Seller have signed a deal with Zuffa, that kind of breaks that.
Yeah, and with TKO Holdings, I think it's the case against Zuffa and TKO Holdings. So, that their claim or their allegation is that the contract has been breached. So, that they will take it from there. I assume they had a contract, otherwise they wouldn't be pushing this out there. Whether it's a huge legal action that goes on, it remains to be seen, in my view. But it certainly stole all the headlines around the world last week and looked like as I say, a pitched promotional war between the guys. But I think we've got to, certainly from my perspective, and I think many other people's perspective, there were those supporting Queensberry standing up to the power broking of Seller and Turkey Al-Sheikh, but there's also those on the other side, and I think this as well. Look at what they brought into the sport. It's business. We've always called it the Wild West. Look how they benefited boxing so far. It will all play out, and we will see if the resolution and the long term works for boxing. But it is a new era. There's no doubt about it. Who and how and where and why it benefits in the end, we will yet see. But there's no question at all that financially everyone's benefited so far.
Yeah, you're right to mention this isn't Frank versus Turkey at the top, although the images of many articles sort of have those two sort of just there, just because they are the figureheads for both, if you like. When you think of Seller, not many people will know about Dr. Rakan. You think of Turkey, and when you think of Queensberry, obviously you think of Frank Warren. Me and you have done so many events in Saudi together. We've been over there numerous times, and we enjoyed it as well. I thought some of the events over there were incredible. Just some of the musicians and the artists and the fights that were put on, just sensational. Is that at an end now then? I mean, at least from a Queensberry standpoint, is that no more?
I just need to clarify what you said there, and you're not wrong, but what I think we have to clarify what is Seller, which is their sport and entertainment arm, funded, Saudi Arabian sport and entertainment arm, funded by the public investment fund that's worth, I think it's $950 million US, 650, 700 million pounds. And Turkey Al-Sheikh's role is chairman. He's a minister in the Saudi government, but the chairman of the General Entertainment Authority that oversees Riyadh season. He's also now the head of boxing in Saudi Arabia. And there's a slight distinction between the two. Politically, they're slightly different. Will it be the end of the relationship? Who knows? People go in and out of divorces in boxing all the time. And generally the arguments are about money. Will we ever see Conor Benn and Eddie Hearn sitting, drinking and laughing and eating together again? We don't know. Would we have ever seen Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn cooperating before the Saudi Arabians and on the same platform together? Boxing is a weird and wonderful world, and that epithet of expecting the unexpected is always there. So I can only say who knows.
What do you think the relationship like? This is almost a bit of a separate one, but the relationship is like now between Turkey and Eddie. No, it's because almost at times it felt like, obviously we've seen those guys hold hands. We've seen them very warm with each other. but at the background, I almost feel like there's this again a power struggle going on. What do you feel like the relationship's like between those two at the moment?
Well, as I said earlier, there is definitely an existential threat on the British promoters from Zuffa Boxing, and behind the scenes there, Seller, and to a certain extent, you have to say Turki Al-Sheikh are involved. So, that I think friendship's one thing, business is another. I think you have to look at the context of what Matchroom is as opposed to what Queensberry is.
Yeah,
Matchroom is a multi-sport organisation. They've got deals with Saudi Arabia and Riyadh Season, and have had deals with snooker. I think with maybe not with billiards, but
Darts.
with darts. So there's a multi-sport relationship there. So it's a bit like when Frank Warren commented on Eddie Hearn's issues with Conor Benn. Frank's quite amusing comment was, I don't think Conor's the best boxer in Essex. Never mind one of the top fighters in the world, which was quite amusing at the time. He's got guys who he thinks can beat him. I don't, and also Eddie Hearn steered away from commenting on the Queensberry TKO scenario as well, didn't he? So it's a time when they're being cautious about talking about each other's businesses. Obviously, they have a relationship now, and they're both on DAZN, so they're cooperating in terms of timings of different weekends, as you'll know very well. They don't clash anymore, which happened at one time. Whether they can align in some way to combat the rising tide or compete with the rising tide of Zuffa and MVP, I'll hasten to add as well, because it looks like Jake Paul's most valuable promotions is going to get into the UK and grow a little bit more. I understand there could be 3 or 4 cards from them this year, obviously mainly, female boxers, as we have on April the 5th, pretty much a female boxing card. That remains to be seen. So it is fascinating what's going on. From our perspective, historically, it's just so intriguing what's happening at the moment. And everyone's got an opinion on it as well.
Yeah. Finally, I always feel like the initial stages of legal cases are very loud. They're everywhere. People writing articles, making videos of them. I almost feel like the ending of them is very quiet. And most times it gets resolved behind closed doors, and it's almost just a quiet resolution. Do you almost expect to see that, or are we expecting a few more uppercuts and right hands and bang, bang, bang?
Listen, a lot of all those promotional forces that we've talked about, when you look at the power struggle that is undoubtedly going on behind the scenes at the moment, and it'd be remiss of me not to mention, because it's been out there in the last couple of days, Zuffa, TKO's big fight at the White House. Dana White's on the Meta board. They've got a direct relationship, obviously, with Donald Trump, the President of the United States. They're looking to, or they will put on an event at the White House that I understand is costing them $30 million that they don't believe they'll recoup, but it's the biggest promotional move they'll ever have. For me, it's the equivalent of Fury versus Joshua, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, maybe happening on the lawns of Buckingham Palace in the UK with 5,000 seats there and 50 jumbotrons around the country, which I think I've mentioned to you before, as it would be the equivalent, if you like. So you look at the power broking there and the level of knowledge and, we've got to have elite level boxing with those guys and the Saudi Arabian government backing. You're looking at very, very elite level business. So in pure financial terms or political terms, there's a giant power struggle going on here. And yes, it will resolve itself. Boxing. I've never agreed with that phrase, Ade, and neither of you, that boxing's broken. It's certainly fractured, and maybe there are more fractures at the moment than there've ever been. But they'll put them back together again, because boxing and fight sports are pure theatre, both in the sporting world and cross over into a mainstream narrative with the right protagonists. and that will never go away. It's big fights. I've been around since time immemorial, and I just think it will continue that way. And the big stars will earn big money, and they'll find a way of promoting things, and they will hype things up. What happens in the background is that they'll find a way through it.
As they always have done. Well said, Mr. Gareth A. Davis. Thanks for keeping us up to speed with what's going on. All right, just when we thought things couldn't get any crazier, weirder, this week, we learned that Alexander Usyk will be returning to defend. And this has been a massive U-turn in the last 48 hours. He is defending his WBC title against Rico Verhoeven. This fight will take place in Egypt, the back end of May. The reason I say there's been a U-turn is because Mauricio Suleiman actually spoke with Chris Mannix, and he said, and I've got the quote here somewhere in front of me, but he said, I'm paraphrasing, that the WBC title itself won't be on the line, but they will create a belt, and he will then be a WBC special event. He's then gone on to say on the WBC Twitter page, after careful consideration, the WBC Board of Governors has ruled in favor of sanctioning WBC welterweight champion Alexander Usyk's voluntary title defense against legendary kickboxing champion Rico Verhoeven. Simple question in this one, Gareth, to kick things off. Should the WBC heavyweight title be on the line?
In principle, no, of course. It's frankly ludicrous. I sent a message to Mauricio I've known a long time and have a close relationship with, saying, why are you doing this? Because, when you look at the lineage of the WBC heavyweight crown, Ade, starting with Sonny Liston through Muhammad Ali, I only need to say their second names, Holyfield, Lewis, Klitschko, Fury, Usyk, Wilder. I mean, Rico Verhoeven's had one boxing match, even though I've known Rico many years, and he's a brilliant guy, an extraordinarily famous man, both in his homeland in Holland. I mean, he even voiced Ferdinand, the cartoon. He voiced Ferdinand in Dutch. He's extraordinarily brilliant as a fighter. He's been in and out of the boxing world, sparring with some of the very best behind the scenes, including Tyson Fury and Hughie Fury. But no, I mean, Mauricio didn't answer me, unfortunately. I was traveling and he didn't get back to me. But it's a bit like when Tyson Fury fought Francis Ngannou, it would have turned the boxing world upside down if Francis had beaten Tyson Fury and won a world title, even though he was a former UFC heavyweight champion. I just think they should have made a special belt. I don't know whether there's pressure in the background to put this on the line and they wouldn't get a sanctioning fee. I don't know what the details are, but like you say, there's definitely a U-turn gone on there. I just wondered whether it was a mistake on the poster to begin with. But like you say, the Extraordinary Council within the WBC group have decided that it is a WBC title. Is that because there's pressure from, again, some of the power brokers that we're talking about? We don't know yet. Maybe we'll find out eventually.
Yeah, I definitely think the latter. I do think there is pressure. Obviously, I feel like the WBC and all the belts are under pressure at the moment from sort of the language Zuf is using, and certainly Dana White's using, about no one cares about the belts. We're going to scrap the belts and create our own thing. And I feel like the WBC have been under a lot of pressure in recent times. Shakur Stevenson fine and Shakur Stevenson being stripped. Terence Crawford saying what he said about the WBC belt. Them putting on world title fights where fighters maybe don't deserve opportunities. And I just feel like they're under pressure at the moment. But I feel like this was a great chance for them to say, no, we're not doing it. The WBC is the most prestigious belt in boxing. The WBC heavyweight title is the most prestigious belt in the whole of boxing. You think how many titles and belts are in boxing? Let's show it some respect. And this isn't a dig at Rico. I've enjoyed his fights in glory. And you're right, he is as famous as anyone when it comes to just sports in the Netherlands. But this is the WBC heavyweight title. And I almost feel like just put the fun fight on. I don't think we would have complained if there was a fun fight and one of those big WBC belts being made and being given to the winner. I feel like it's a bit disrespectful to some of the fighters who are paying their sanctioning fees and are number 1 ranked, number 2 ranked, number 3 ranked, have WBC international titles and are begging for an opportunity. And then someone comes along who's a bit more famous than them, and then that person gets the opportunity instead. I just don't think it sits right. I'm not mad at going to Egypt, though. I like the idea of going to the pyramids and seeing how that looks, but I'm not a fan of the WBC title being on the line.
Yeah, I'll definitely call you Geezer while we're there.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree with you. A special belt would have been right. That's been my feeling all along. You know, how much chance do we give Rico Verhoeven of defeating Alexander Usyk? Maybe not much, but as I kept saying when Francis Ngannou was fighting Tyson Fury, do not say he's got zero chance, because that's not the way fight sports work. I expect Alexander Usyk to win and be formidable in the fight. But one thing I've always seen with kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters, when they cross over into boxing, they take a lot of punches and they have great chins and very, very powerful, very hard torsos, because they take so many kicks and punches. And kicks are often heavier than punches, of course, from the fists. I'm interviewing Rico tomorrow, believe it or not, for Ring Magazine. I'm doing a cover story on him tomorrow that's going to go out before the fight. So I'm looking forward to catching up with Rico. As I say, I've known him a long time. I don't begrudge him the opportunity or the appearance. He's a massive star. Sorry.
No, you're right. Sorry, I was agreeing with you. I don't begrudge him either. If I'm Rico and I get that call, I'm taking that immediately. It's supposed to be AJ, now Usyk. I mean, why would I say no?
Yeah, you wouldn't. And also, look what happened for Francis. He then got to go in against Anthony Joshua. Obviously, it didn't end well for him, but he had two massive opportunities to both create some generational wealth for himself and his family, and to put himself on the map. Everybody knows who Francis Ngannou is now in the fight world. If they didn't know before, obviously he was a UFC heavyweight champion, as I mentioned earlier. But in many ways, this is an opportunity for, like you say, he's very famous in glory. He's very famous in Holland. He's very famous within the confines of the fight sports world, but not really massively known outside. So this is a massive opportunity for him to really promote himself as well. And if he goes well in this fight, it wouldn't surprise me to see him, fight a few others. Would he fight Moses Talma when he comes through eventually? So it's not about whether he wins; it's about how he performs as well. And wait till everybody meets him; they're going to love Rico because he's a brilliant character.
Yeah, and he's a big lump. I mean, Rico's
massive.
Yeah, massive,
guy.
6'5", 6'6", 20 stone, and 20 chiseled stone. This isn't he isn't carrying extra weight. He's just a lump of a human being. And I think once people see the physical size matchup, they might 1 second. This might not be as easy as we first thought. And as you say, he can take a whack as well. I've seen him being cracked on the chin with shins and still stay there. So I don't think this is going to be as easy as people think. What do you make of what's happened in the heavyweight division in the last 2.5 years? We've seen, again, Fury and Ngannou crossover fight. These are the biggest stars. AJ, Jake Paul crossover fight. Usyk, Rico crossover fight. I mean, is that an issue, or is that just how it is? Like, should they be not fighting the next man up so we kind of get the passing of the torch and that kind of baton being shifted over? Right at the end of their careers, they're all having these crossover type fights.
In an ideal world, it shouldn't be happening, but we're not in an ideal world, are we? And, there's a lot of money around at the moment in the sports. These guys Rico has been a lifelong martial artist. So this is just capping off his career with an opportunity. And, the fact that the only thing that surprised me about that fight is that it's on DAZN. I don't mean that in any rude way, but I thought it was going to be on Netflix when I heard about it. But good for DAZN. Absolutely delighted for DAZN. It will do numbers. It will bring two combat sports worlds together and the fans of two combat sports worlds. He'll have a huge audience from Holland, by the way, from the Netherlands as well, by the way, because of it. We're going to be in the pyramids in Egypt. It's an iconic moment. I don't have any issue with it. You go back in time. I've told this story before, how you've had unusual crossover fights with Antonio Inoki against Muhammad Ali in '75 in Japan, which wasn't a successful event, but even though it was a very big event at the time, there've always been these events. Wilt Chamberlain, the 7'1" basketball player, was going to fight Muhammad Ali at one point. It never came about, but it will always happen because, when you shout fight, 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 and you hype and promote something, and you're bringing what could potentially be a car crash together, people will watch it. And that's why Netflix, it's why Amazon, it's why YouTube, it's why all the giant streamers are getting on board in the sport as well.
All right, elsewhere in the heavyweight division, some might say a real fight, Daniel Dubois and Fabio Wardley, who get it on in Manchester in what is a blockbuster fight for the WBO heavyweight title. They were both in the talkSPORT studios last week to look ahead to the fight. Let's have a listen in now. This is Daniel Dubois alongside Don Charles, Jim White and Simon Jordan. And he was batting away, as he always seems to do at the moment, accusations that he lacks heart in big fights.
Nah, that's not the case at all. I'm going to show these people, the critics, all the doubters that, they're wrong about me, and they ain't got a clue what I've got inside me. I feel like I'm just evolving in my career. I'm just getting better in it every time. Every fight camp we do, we're just getting it right, and this fight is going to be right.
I mean, you and Don may as well listen to this. This lacking of heart that you may or may not have, we put that to Fabio Wardley yesterday. Have a listen.
I sometimes struggle to say, like, oh, you haven't got heart, because don't get me wrong,
you've got to have heart to get in there.
That's my point. Like, it takes a set to get in there in the first place, and then, like he has done, lose to someone, and then get back in there with them and throw yourself back at it. Yeah. So it's a bit of 6 of one, half dozen of the other, because it takes some to get there, but then maybe in the moment, in the situation, it all gets on top of you a bit, and not to say you crumble or whatever else, but it all just, you feel the weight of it all, and it all just gets a bit too much, and the pressure and the lights and whatever else. So I can understand the the criticisms.
You were making odd noises during that.
I wasn't.
What did you?
I was looking at. I'm not even watching none of this shit. These words flying about don't mean nothing to me. I'm a pure warrior, pure and simple.
We need to mind our language, Daniel, but you can take it from that, everybody listening.
Does it annoy you? Does it annoy you, Don?
Daniel didn't really bother with that.
Does this sort of observation annoy you? Because it started in the Joe Joyce fight.
Yeah.
And I think that was grotesquely unfair, because I was there, and I think his corner should have done better for him and taken him out rather than put him in a position. But does it annoy you when this constant diatribe about what he's got in moments of great adversity?
Yeah, it's quite laughable at times, because people are still holding on to what they're claiming. That's not the case at all. The kid knows himself. He just said it, okay? If that's the confidence, they're trying to draw some confidence from that, then good luck to them. I thought Donald redeemed himself. He demonstrated against Baby Miller. Hrgovic, okay? Right? When the going gets tough. Yeah, he's proved it, and we don't have to justify nothing. Yeah, if that Fabio Wardley's team, if that's what they're really holding on to, then good luck.
You seem a bit on edge this morning, Don. I know you, but you do seem very defensive this morning.
The fight is on. When the fight is on, although I'm just the coach, I've got my war head on my way this morning. You have to be in the zone. I mean, he's ready to fight, like he said earlier on. If this fight was in 2 weeks' time, Daniel's always in camp anyway. He lives boxing, drinks, eats boxing. So I've got my fight head on, hence why I might be what you're picking up on. You're probably right.
Daniel Dubois there, doing the best he can to kind of, again, just bat these accusations away. They're not going to go away. I almost feel like it's part of him now. I don't like it, because I feel like I have seen him have adversity in fights and fight through them. Jarrell Miller, I was there ringside for that one. There was a time in that fight where it looks like it could have gone on top, and he found a way. AJ landed a couple of big right hands, and he found a way to come through that as well. So we have seen him come through adversity, but ultimately people still look at the Usyk and Joe Joyce performances. They're never going to go away, are they? Especially when people with loud platforms and big platforms continually say it.
Yeah, look, I mean, he had his head jabbed off by Joe Joyce on Joe Joyce's arguably best night in the heavyweight division during lockdown, during the COVID pandemic lockdown, and he's come back from that. And I agree with you, against Filip Hrgovic particularly, and against Anthony Joshua to a certain extent. And in a way, in the Jarrell Miller fight, even though he put a lot of punches on Jarrell Miller that night, the only person to have stopped Jarrell Miller, of course. There are questions about him all the time, and unfortunately, mud sticks in boxing, and that one stuck with him. Mainly because twice against Alexander Usyk, there is that feeling that mentally he was beaten. But Usyk is an extraordinary character, and in the second fight, he put it on Daniel, didn't give him any space, and Daniel couldn't pull the trigger that night. But this is a really good fight. It's two young men in their prime, both of whom are. Daniel has been a world champion. Fabio is a world champion. It's a huge opportunity for Fabio to rubber stamp the fact that he belongs. He does belong, but he truly belongs at elite level in the sport. He's come from behind in terms of being behind in the fight a few times now. People back against him. His performances against Justice Hooney and Joseph Parker were extraordinary, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. I think Daniel Dubois, for me, ought to be able to outbox Fabio Wardley. And I think Daniel will be very dangerous early in this fight. Fabio has got an extraordinary pair of whiskers on him, extraordinary desire and heart, and that killer instinct with that punch. So, the longer the fight goes, I can see it, the better for Fabio Wardley, which is, if you know your sport and you know your boxing, that would be the conventional thinking. It wouldn't surprise me if Daniel Dubois really outboxed Fabio Wardley. It wouldn't surprise me if Fabio Wardley pulled, a punch from hell, a hellacious hook or a short right hand and stopped Daniel. It wouldn't surprise me if Daniel knocked out Fabio. That's what's great about this fight. Two young fighters in their prime who both like to knock out opponents. So what more could we wish for?
No, not much. I did the face-off last week as well, and it was a bit like Bivol Beterbiev, where both guys are speaking to me, and I truly believe both are going to win, which obviously can't happen. Both of these guys genuinely think they're going to win. Like normally, you look at fighters and you think they're trying to egg themselves up. Do they really believe what they're saying? But they're supposed to say it. Daniel, obviously, very little words, but the points where he did make eye contact with Fabio, he looked very confident, and Fabio the same way. Both of these guys think they're going to knock each other out, and honestly, I can't wait for it. I think it's the best heavyweight fight we've got on paper so far this year. So, and maybe will be the best. I think it's a cracking fight. Looking forward to what the undercard is as well, because they've gone big. The Co-op Live, 20,000 in there. They'll set it out, I think. But it's a big event.
Yeah, and you look at the run now with, I think I've got the right date, 23rd of May for Usyk Verhoeven, and then you come back May the 9th for these guys, and then you've got, Moses Taumer on the 28th of March, and then you've got War Chisora and Deontay Wilder, then Tyson Fury and Arslan Makhmudov in the middle of that, the MVP card, or the 5th of April, the women's card MVP. I mean, it's the Dublin card that we mentioned at the top with Kakachi and Dickens. I mean, it's a great time for the sport, and the season is stacked up right now, and it's a brilliant time to be in the sport. And as you say, with all the backdrop of what's happening behind the scenes, it's just fascinating. I think we can expect more announcements, big announcements in the next fortnight as well, Ade.
Yeah, just to add to it as well as we close, Jao Pataya versus Brandon Glanton this weekend on Zuffa. Remember, it'll be the Zuffa Cruiserweight title. We've had Inoue Nakatani announced for the Tokyo Superdome in May. David Benavidez, Zerda Ramirez in May. I mean, you're right, Gareth. You mentioned the sport, right? Boxing isn't broken. Yeah, a bit fractured. But if you just look at what we've just mentioned in the last hour or so, boxing's in a good space, a very good place, loads of big fights.
Can I just say, it is indeed, and can I just say one more thing? Bilal Fawaz, who became the British and Commonwealth super welterweight champion the weekend before last, who still doesn't hold a British passport. He's been in the country for 24 years. He's got remain to stay, but doesn't have a passport. He was on the show with us on Saturday night. Please get behind and support him. Have a little look at a documentary I've made with my filming partner, Joseph Brody, because we should really try and get behind this guy and push the Home Office to give him his passport. Have a little look at the documentary that's out right now.
Well said. It is a really good documentary and well filmed as well. Honestly, really good stuff. I love those kind of walk and talks because it just looks real. And honestly, it does. When you see sort of UK, the London in the background, I always find those things fascinating. So really go and have a look at it. It's a really good piece by Gareth. Again, Bilal coming off that really good win against Ishmael Davies. It's an incredible story. And I think Gareth and Bilal did so well to kind of speak about that story. And let's hope we can get behind Bilal to get his UK citizenship. All right, you've been listening to Find It Extra on talkSPORT 2. Big thanks to Gareth for joining me today. Remember, if you have missed any of the show, you can listen to it as a podcast. Find it under the Fight Night banner on the talkSPORT app, on YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. We'll be back with you next week.